Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies. How are all of you?
Doing good.
Fine.
Doing good, doing good. Just trying to survive this pandemic overseas.
Yeah, exactly right. I want to just first tell our audience that we're really pleased that they joined us today. And I just also really want to express my appreciation for today's panelists. In some cases, they could be cooking dinner or sleeping or doing other things with their families or for their businesses. So I want to say thank you for that. And I also just kind of wanted to give a brief overview of today's call. We're talking to three moms who are living and thriving in their country of choice, who have found a way with their families to create a good life. And so this is a prevalent theme that comes up in the group, people asking, well, how do you do that? Like, where do you find the courage, the guts to do that? What does that look like logistically when you get on the ground? What does it look like to make friends, to make community? What does it look like to make a living? What do the kids think? How do they feel? Where do you find a good school for them? How is it that you make sure they stay connected to family? How do you stay connected to your family? How do you create your family? There are so many questions. And so these ladies have joined us and given us their time so graciously to kind of give us a sense of what that looks like. So I'm going to just pause for a second, and then we're going to kind of go from left to right, starting with Manira. I would love for everyone just to take maybe 1 minute just to give a high level, like, who are you? Where do you live? What do you do? And, I guess that, and then we'll kind of go into more detail.
So, hi everyone. Thank you everyone for being here with us today. So, I'm Munira, and I am originally from Malaysia, in Sabah, which is in Borneo, in Malaysia. So, I moved to Dubai in 2016, and I was an oil and gas engineer for 13 years. And in 2016, I decided to take a leap of faith and move to Dubai, despite not having figured out how to manage it with my kids. To secure the job first. And then in 2020, I took another leap of faith and started a business. So I guess we'll talk more about how I managed from 2016 until now. And that's the general details about me. And by the way, I started a travel business during a pandemic. So we'll see.
Particularly brave, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Kiana?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kiana. I currently live in Barcelona, Spain, just outside of Barcelona, Spain. I moved here in 2016 with my family from Atlanta, Georgia. And it was truly a blind leap of faith because I had never been to Spain before. And it's like tickets were booked and house was on the market. And we were like, we got a flight and we'll make it work. And we booked a long-term apartment, and we really just figured it out with kids on a whim. I mean, understand, we did a ton. I read a lot of blogs, read a lot of, I got, residency first and everything, but this was all done from the United States before we had even gotten here. But it was a true leap of faith, and it's been quite an adventure. I don't regret it at all. I think it's amazing, and while it's not easy, it's been really fulfilling. It's been eye-opening. It's been, I feel like America is a bubble, and I feel like just leaving and with my family has opened my eyes to the world and just to a different way of thinking, a different thought process, different culture. And so we actually still have a business in the United States, and we run it from here.
awesome. And I know that you are a resident married mom. And I wanted to include your experience as well, because sometimes we start single and then we get married, or sometimes we get married and we get single, right? And then a lot of times also, you know, it ends up sort of being maybe one parent or the other parent that kind of does more in one area than the other area in terms of logistics, etc. You know, I wasn't going to say that, but you know, since you're volunteering, I felt like it's a good example, you know, of just kind of how we shift and move and make whatever sort of like leaps of faith that we do at any given time, with or without the support, depending on whatever stage of life we're in. So that being said, thank you so much to also our final panelist, Lariette, if you wouldn't mind introducing us.
Hello, my name is Lariette, and I'm currently living in Kuwait. My daughter and I moved here in 2019. Like most people, it was a leap of faith. I started applying to schools in February, and by September, we had moved to Kuwait. I had never really heard of Kuwait until February, and we've been here ever since. And I don't really regret it. I'm looking forward to living in different places now.
So the journalist in me just really wants to start with you, Lariette, because I cannot imagine not hardly even knowing a country and just being like, all right, so that's where we're going to be. We'll figure it out. Talk to me about the moments that you were like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and take off from this country that I've known for ever how long, and I'm going to make a new way in a new country. Talk about what that moment was for you.
It was kind of building up over the course of years, because I always wanted to live abroad. So I would always talk to like ELL teachers or teachers that had taught abroad. I'm a teacher also. So I would always talk to these teachers about how they did this, and they would tell me, like, over the years they would tell me. And then one day I met this teacher. She was actually my co-teacher for like maybe a month, and she was telling me that she had just came from China, and she was just telling me how I could apply to these schools, like how to find the schools. And I was just like, you know what? Why I might as well just do it now. So I started looking at these at this website, or these websites that she gave me, and all of these opportunities were available. It was more money, it was more resources. It was just it was better opportunities. So I said, you know what? Why are we staying here? let's go where these opportunities are. So that's how it happened.
Okay, and I'm going to stay with you for a second and ask. Talk to me about the sort of the cultural learning curve. As someone who has traveled to Dubai and other areas, I know, like, I am not Muslim, for instance. Culturally, you know, I always have to adjust my thinking and my way of being in places like Morocco, etc. Like, talk to me a little bit about what that learning curve was for you, especially not having very much context for Kuwait, in terms of where you are now.
So I got my first cultural shock like in the very beginning, because you're not allowed to show much skin. You're not allowed to show any skin, really. So I would wear it was like the second day of school, and I wore like my regular teacher dress, and my legs were out, and they stopped me, and they were like, no, you have to go home and change. So I immediately started, they made me go home and change. Like, I immediately started learning about the culture. Also, you have to learn how to deal with the people here, because it's a lot different from America. In America, people, I don't want to say people are less sensitive, but it's just a different culture. You can't handle people the way you would handle them in America. So you really have to get into understanding their mindset.
That's awesome. I hear you on that.
Do you have to cover your hair? Do you have to cover?
Oh, no. You don't have to wear like hijab or anything. But you at work, you can't show your elbows or above your elbows. You can't show above your knees or anything. So your knees have to be covered at all times, and your elbows have to be covered. So it's lax compared to some Middle Eastern countries, but still, compared to Louisiana, where I'm from, it's more how do you say it? I don't even conservative, more conservative.
Yeah, totally. I would love for the others to weigh in on that too. What was your moment where you're like, I'm out of here? Either one of you, Munira, or
well,
if I were to say, I have always been interested to get out, but because I joined a multinational company, you know, when you're in a big company, it's hard for you to just simply pack up and go, you know, because we have the benefits and everything. So the moment that they gave me the opportunity for a transfer, and it was an Iraq project, by the way, I would be based in Dubai, which means I would have the opportunity to bring my children, but the project was for Iraq, which means I would have to spend time in Iraq. So even though everybody was looking at me, are you sure you want to go to Iraq? I looked at it as, you know, it's a stepping stone. I'm out. Like, what about, you know, I had this opportunity came when I was given, I have just given birth to my third child, my son. He was 4 months old. I have just come out because in Malaysia we have 3 months maternity leave. And I've just come out of my maternity leave and I was offered it. And without even thinking, I mean, I know at the back of my mind, it's going to be important for me to have childcare, but I had no idea how it was. And I just thought, and I just said, yes, I will do it. If you think I'm capable, I'm going to go. So that was the moment that I just left. I just went, took the opportunity and thought, I'll figure out the rest along the way, as long as I'm there.
I am in awe. I am. And I mean, and I should say, I grew up in part abroad myself. I was an army brat. So we lived in Germany when I was a kid. But it's a complete another story to be responsible for your family, to be making decisions, you know, at the level that you are in terms of their comfort and care and your ability to progress in your career. Like those are really, as my son and I like to say, really big adult moments, right?
Very big adult moments. So I have to mention that my mom too did the same thing because she was also a single mom. She had the opportunity to move to the UK and she brought the three of us together with her. But as you say, you can start single and she got remarried. But because I think I saw her do that, it made me have the courage to do it as well at that stage of my life. That was 5 years ago, I guess. So I thought, okay, if mom can do it, why can't I do it? But of course, I did it, you know, one step further than her. Because, you know, I went to Iraq and I did all of this all by myself, you know, so.
That's a freaking amazing, girl. Really, seriously. I love it. All right, Kiana, what was your, this is not for me, I'm out of here moment?
Well, it's so weird because in 2015, at the end, we've always looked at moving abroad. We've looked at South America, Latin America, stuff like that. We've never really looked at Europe, but I love to travel. And in December of 2015, I was looking to do like a backpacking through Europe. So we were, I think at the time, Norwegian Air was having like really inexpensive flights to like Oslo. And with two kids, with four of us traveling, I'm always looking for the deal. So I was like, okay, we'll start in Oslo and then we'll like take trains through Europe. And I was trying to like do the economics of the trip and trying to be as inexpensive as possible. And I found out about like farm stays or stays, like you would, it's like an Airbnb, but you stay and you kind of help out in like in the area. And I figured we can go from Oslo and take trains and backpack, and it would be this huge adventure for the summer of 2016. And as I was looking, I was like I love Paris because I went there when I was younger. And I was like, I started at Paris, and I'm like, you know what? What does rural France have? What's going on in rural France? So I just, you know, I'm looking at like an Airbnb. I'm going south. And I'm at the south of France. I'm like, oh, horses. Oh, this is amazing. And then I started going west and I crossed the border to Barcelona. And I'm like, Barcelona? It was so beautiful. And, you know, I'm coming from the rural France to like this cosmopolitan, the architecture, the streets. I don't know, but it just hit me. And I was like, I looked at my husband. I was like, where is this? He was like, that's Barcelona. And I looked at him and I was like, why haven't you told me about Barcelona before? And he was like, you know, where the Olympics were. Now I remembered Barcelona, but it just never really stuck with me. So I started like doing Google Maps and going through the streets and going through this. And then we were like, okay, let's not go to Oslo. Let's just go directly to Barcelona. And instead of doing weekly stuff here and traveling, let's just stay in Barcelona for 2 months. And honestly, within the next 3 weeks, it turned into, okay, let's just move. Like literally, that is how we did it. And at the time, I didn't, there was a lot of things that I didn't like about living in the United States when it came to my kids. I have a son, a daughter, and they were just, I lived in the South, and there were a lot of things that were very uncomfortable for me. But, you live on, you deal with it, you go on, you do your best, And, but as I started thinking about it, I was like, I started getting anxiety. I started feeling like I gotta leave. Something is pushing me. Something is telling me that I shouldn't be here anymore. And it's not based on anything other than feeling. And by the time we left in June, I just was like, I gotta go. I don't know why. I don't know what's telling me why I have to go. But it started from a real whimsical trip to we've got to go now, because I felt like if we didn't go then, we wouldn't get to go. I don't know why, but that's how we got here.
That's incredible. There's a prevailing theme here. It's guts and intuition, right? And it's desire, desire to create something better for yourself that will manifest into something better for your children as well. So I love that, and you kind of walked right into a question I was going to ask you and really ask everyone about, because we're all women of color, right? So we all have different experiences, I am sure, wherever we have lived, that has really kind of driven home our differentness, whether it is culturally from the standpoint of being American, whether it is being a woman, whether it's being a woman of color. Talk to me, or all of us really, a little bit about that experience, the good, the bad, the things that we were hoping for, but maybe didn't get in regards to our children when we moved to where we moved. Can we talk a little bit about your experiences on that level? Anyone?
Okay. Well, moving to Barcelona, I didn't really consider I'm from Jamaica. So I was born in Jamaica. So I moved to the United States when I was 6. So, and I spent a lot of time, summers and stuff back in Jamaica. So I don't have the complete African-American experience.
Totally.
Because I didn't, so there's a lot of times that I just walk around and I forget that I'm Black. It's not a chip on my, I don't know how to say it. A lot of my Black American friends, it's no, I never forget I'm Black. And a lot of times I do. So I don't have that. I don't always walk around looking through I'm a Black woman glasses. I'm just walking around, So that, I had heard about Spain could be a little racist. I've heard that against Black, people, but it wasn't a concern for me. And one of the things that I realized when I got here is that Barcelona is part of Catalonia, where they speak a different language. They speak Spanish, but they have their own language, Catalan, and they're an extremely progressive and inclusive community, area. And I found no racism, no problems whatsoever. It's I get lost on the street, you know what I mean? It's it's no problem. To the point where when they have their festivals, what really surprised me was I saw Malcolm X quotes and Malcolm X, flags, because in essence, they're kind of in a push-pull with the Spanish government because they want independence. So they look to the United States civil rights movement for inspiration. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and a lot of revolutionaries around the world, not just in America, but they do that. So as far as the kids, surprisingly, everybody was really integrated very well. The biggest thing was the language. We didn't get any racism at all. I mean, I know it's kind of weird to say, but because this is a European country and 90% of the people are of European background, like my son, when he went to school, they called him Little Obama, you know, and it wasn't derogatory. It was like, oh, he looks like Obama, and they love Obama. So I felt very welcomed. I'm more looked on as an American than
Caribbean
a Black person.
Yeah,
but honestly, I'll walk down the street and another Black person will start speaking French to me, and I'm like, I don't
right.
I don't speak French. Like, they assume I'm African. Like, Black people walking in Spain, in Barcelona, in the city, they assume I'm African, and they'll have a level of familiarity with me, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't speak French, and they just automatically think I speak French, or they automatically think I'm from Latin America. A lot of times I don't get American until they hear me speak, but everybody has been really welcoming, at least with the schools, because there are kids involved. So the administration is different than when you're single. So, you know, I'm going to schools, I'm going to administrations, I'm going to doctors, I'm going, you know, you got to get all these things together for the kids, and nobody ever gave me side eye, or, you know what I mean, made me feel unwelcome. They hug my kids, you know, culturally, like it's just like, hey, come on in, you know. I find a lot of actual Catalans have adopted African kids. So you have dark-skinned Catalans, and they're speaking better, you know, they're speaking the language. So yeah,
that's
no
amazing.
problems.
And thank you very much for kind of, you know, sharing how you identify and sort of what your cultural touch points are, because you're right, those are very important things. And Munira, I'm curious to you, like, do you more identify with being Malaysian, Asian American? Like, what is your sort of cultural, I guess the word I'm looking for is experience, in terms of what you bring to where you are now?
Okay, so I have few experiences, because I did live in the UK in the 90s with my mom, where they have never heard of what a Malaysian is, or anybody with color, because we were living in the middle of England, basically. And I already knew what it was that they realized that I was different. They thought I lived on trees, when I came from quite a big city in Malaysia. And when I'm in Malaysia, we also have this, I won't call it division, but we do identify to big ethnicities. Like in the US, it's the white or African American. For us, we have, you know, the Malay, the Chinese, the Indian, or the East Malaysian. I'm an East Malaysian, but when they look at me, they can't identify who I am. It's like, which one are you? Somebody always needs to be in a box. You can't be one or the other. You know, you can't be just a mix of everyone. So because of my cultural background, and I've lived in the UK, and I've been mixing around with a lot of nationalities due to work, I would love for my children to experience it the same way as me, so that they are colorblind, so they don't identify. That's why I was also bent on moving to Dubai. I believe that Dubai to be in the middle of the world, where everybody is accepted. So when I brought them here and they attended the international schools, and when I talk to my children, my son says, he tells me that he's making friends, and naturally we ask them, so where are they from? He goes, I don't really ask such questions. He's just my friend. What do they look like? I think they have this color hair, and I think that the skin looks a bit dark, or the skin looks a bit light, and things like this. But they don't identify that it's like different nationality, different ethnicity. They are just friends. So I love that development. On the other hand, for myself, the moment I came here, I was identified more as like a Filipina, because of my descent of being East Malaysian. We are very close to Philippines, and we do actually share some ethnicity. And there is, unfortunately, there may be some stereotypical in terms of the capability or the competency, where our nature of work is more towards service, whereby I was a qualified engineer, still am. And so that was something, I wouldn't say it was a struggle, but it struck me as strange, because when I'm in Malaysia, I never received this. I'm just a Malaysian, and I can be anyone. I can be a food seller, I can be an engineer, I can be a banker, it doesn't matter. But when I moved to Dubai, this stereotype is there. Mm-hmm. So I found that a bit shocking, really, in the beginning. But then as I moved along, I knew how to bring myself so that I will not be looked, and they will speak to me in different languages, and then they'll try to still put me in a box, like, where are you from? You know,
right. Yeah.
Because I don't speak like a typical Malaysian either, and I don't speak like somebody from the Philippines, and so everybody is still trying to say, I can't figure out where you're from.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
so,
yeah. It's interesting. I took my son to Dubai. That was his first international trip when he was 3. And I had the unfortunate experience of people, well, because that's how I processed it. People like reaching out and like patting him on his head, and, like without permission. And I felt like there was a level of familiarity there that, you know, we don't do that in the States, right? Or people, you know, I guess some Russian woman in the elevator behind me pulling on my hair, you know, just interest, right? It's not supposed to be this whole thing. I don't think they think they're intentional about it, but it's like, we don't do that, you know? So I can identify what you're saying in terms of being pigeonholed, stereotyped, put in a box, etc. And then the whole, like, now the onus is on you to prove yourself, you know? Like, you're a very well-educated and well-trained woman. And I feel like globally, sometimes the experience is that that's not necessarily how we show up. So I'm glad that you're bringing that piece of this conversation to the fore, because, you know, I think about that also, you know, in terms of, you know, we're here in the DC area for now because my parents are here, and I really want my son to have the experience of being connected to his grandparents, who are a really pivotal part of his life. But later in life, you know, I might be like, okay, I'm out too, and I want to do these things. So it's helpful to be aware of some of the things that you might encounter and to not take it personally to the extent that you can, right? Because you don't want to show up with that. At the same time, like, it is a level of awareness that's helpful, I think, probably to navigate the space that you're in. Because I've heard you say that you started in Iraq and then moved to Dubai, right? Meaning, or were you always, in terms of this?
I was always based in Dubai, but the assignment was in Iraq. So I had to travel to Iraq once or twice a month.
Gotcha.
1 week or 2 weeks at a time. But the kids were always in Dubai.
Sure. So then that's another level of cultural sort of like nuance that you're having to process, right? Because it's not like the countries are at all the same. Nope. So that's very helpful to know. And so, Lariette, I know that you are a teacher, and so teaching is a constant theme that we hear in this group in terms of opportunities to take maybe an education you receive from the US or someplace else and then make more money abroad. So it sounds to me like your story, Lariette, kind of like speaks to that. And so I heard you say that, you know, you're able to make a lot, you know, more money. Was it significantly more money? Like, is there sort of like a financial plan that you set for yourself? I think you said something like you want to live there to complete like a 10-year plan and then move someplace else. Talk to me about sort of like the financial component of this and what you found to be beneficial to you, not just from a salary perspective, but a cost of living.
I think for me, I guess the financial benefit is we don't have to pay taxes, so our money is tax-free. And if you're a teacher, in most cases, your housing is paid for. You don't really have to pay any bills. So all of that tax-free salary you can use to save or pay off whatever you have in the U.S. So it's not as stressful financially. But you said, what is my plan? My 10-year plan? Okay, so I won't be here for 10 years. I'm actually entering year 6 of my 10-year plan, but I want to save up to get like a house and to be able to live comfortably when I go back. Because when I go back, I do want to be in medical school, and I don't want to have to pay a mortgage, or I don't want to have to try to figure out how to get a job and be in medical school. So right now I'm just trying to make sure I'm comfortable when we do go back. So that'll be a couple years from now. So hopefully that works out.
Okay. So this brings us to a really great question for everyone. Talk to us about the cost of living where you are in terms of what you expected versus what you found. You know, like, is it cheaper to live here ultimately? Is it less cheap? You know, what are the financial sort of like benefits or inconveniences? And then also financially, how do you do what you do? So what does that look like? Is it a full-time job? Is it businesses? What kind of things have you gone through to like maybe legally have a business there? If that's something that we're going to talk about, use your choice. Just talk to us about your experience in regards to that.
Okay. I think cost of living here is much cheaper than in the US. However, I think if you live properly, then the cost of living is cheaper than it would be in the US. But I don't know. I don't live as, I don't know how to say it. I don't budget as much as I could. so it's potential to be much cheaper than the US.
Sure. What is like if you had to say your average 2-bedroom apartment or 3-bedroom or whatever in a neighborhood that you can get your kids to a good school, can you just kind of give a sense of what that costs there?
Okay. I would say maybe about 500 US. Okay. So I know where I live right now is less than 500 US.
Okay.
And this is a
safe
2-bedroom, 2-bath. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. Munira, how about yourself?
So I would be comparing to Malaysia, but I do have some contacts in the US, and I've come to know what is their cost of living. So if I were to comment on that, I think that the cost of living might be the same or slightly higher than the US, depending on where you are, of course. So here, the specific thing that we have to bear in mind when it comes to Dubai is that the lease are paid upfront, either 1 year or quarterly. So we don't pay monthly of any lease. So let's say for a 2-bedroom in an area that still has a good school, we don't talk about the area in downtown near Burj Khalifa. Talk about a little bit more on the outskirts. Let's say 16,000 US dollars per year.
Sure.
So, so this is on the outskirts, and you would need transport, and you would need school buses and things like that. So what I realized, because when I first came here, of course, oil and gas is big in the Middle East. And when you come here, when you work for a good oil and gas company, you will get the benefits like housing and school and whatever benefits, the medical benefits that comes with it. And like Lariette said, that there are no taxes and you get housing allowances and things like that. So you have a lot of dispensable income that you can potentially save and pay off whatever you have. Within the first 2 years, I paid off whatever I needed to pay in Malaysia. And then I was able, as I kept working and I went off to Iraq, every time I went to Iraq, I had extra allowances. So I gathered or saved enough money, and I didn't, as a single mom, I don't have time to spend my money. So as I gathered more money, I was able to, at the end of because we have 3 to 4 year assignment. At the end of my assignment, I was able to save enough money. And I thought, what am I going to do with this money? And I want to set up a business. And we could talk more about how to set up that business. But the key point here is I took, of course, networking is very important, regardless of my time. In the first few years, I did not do a lot of networking, but in my final years, I did a lot of networking. I found out more. I found out how to get a job that I want, which I realized I didn't really want to stay in my technical field, how to set up a business and how to contact more people to set up that business. And once I was able to do that, I took that leap of faith. But the thing that I did was I bought into a franchise. So they set up the licenses and everything. So when I bought into a franchise, I think it's a good step to move forward. And I've already calculated what is the minimum amount of income that I need to be able to sustain me and my kids here. So having said that Dubai is quite expensive, I have also found ways to make it less expensive. You know, we find ways, because Dubai has no limit in terms of luxury, 7-star hotels, everything, thousands of dollars worth of dinner, but we can also find $10 dinners, you know, so it's all there. So it's just you choose which level you want to live. So I've chosen my level, and I know how to get around. I know where to buy groceries that doesn't cost that much money. And so this is how I've been living. I've been learning how to live by without staying a certain level of lifestyle, because we choose our level of lifestyle, how we want to live.
Correct.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So this is what I decided. I want to stay in this area so that I can sustain it for longer. And I would love to stay in this country for as long as I need to, so that we learn as much as we can. And if we have another opportunity to move on, you might do.
Okay. So you talked about a franchise. Is this in regards to your travel business, or is this something else? And if so, tell us a little bit about it.
The travel franchise is the current business that I am doing, that I have joined Travel Counselors. It is a UK-based business where they offer services, travel services or travel franchise to home-based business owners. So basically, when we join the franchise, even if you don't have a travel background, you may join as an entry-level travel and have the company run based from home, and they will set up all your licenses, and they will give you all the training and coaching for a year, and for a minimal kind of investment. I find it minimal because if you take into account the training, how much you spend on training, I found it minimal. Of course, if you have a travel background, the cost is a bit less because you don't need the training. So I have found it quite interesting to have started back in September. So it's been 4 to 5 months now that I am learning the trade. Even though I am a traveler, it's a whole different story running a travel business.
Oh, yes, it is.
Yes.
It absolutely is. So just so I'm clear, do you do this full time, or do you do your engineering work as well as your business?
I am currently doing this full time. I have quit my engineering job. Of course, I keep all of my credentials as, you know, future potential businesses, but I don't look forward or anticipate going back to a full-time job anytime soon.
Outstanding. And I know, Kiana, you have a similar story in terms of your taking on the entrepreneurial, you know, sort of journey. I don't know if that happened as a result of moving to Barcelona, if it was always part of the plan, but let's talk a little bit about your journey as it relates to supporting your family as well.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the cost of living in Barcelona?
Oh yeah, thank you. Bring us on back. Start with cost of living, and then how you meet that cost of living.
Okay. Well, Barcelona and Madrid.
Are you froze for
places? It's
okay. I think you're back.
Am I there? Hello?
I think you're back now. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Barcelona and Madrid are the two major cities in Spain. So they're most economies, but that's where business is done. Madrid is the head of government, and Barcelona is.
I heard Barcelona is head of something. I'm so sorry. Technology is just not our friend.
Again?
I said technology is just not our friend at this moment, unless it's me. You keep cutting in and out. So you said business. Madrid is the head of something, sorry. And then Barcelona. It's not you, girl. It's Zoom or my Wi-Fi connection.
Oh, okay. Well, Madrid. Okay, can you hear me pretty okay now? Okay. Madrid is the head of government, and there's a king and a queen, and the monarchy is in Madrid. But Barcelona also is a highly producing, it's the most producing area in the country as far as economic wise. So it's two very, very expensive places. And when I moved to the city, when I was living in Atlanta, I lived in a suburb, but I grew up in New York City. So when I moved to Barcelona, I wanted to be in the middle. I wanted to be in the middle of everything. Give me the lights, give me the city, you know?
I hear you, yep.
And so we moved like downtown Barcelona, and and I wanted it to be authentic. So we moved into they have Catalans, the Barcelonians, they have their own type of architecture, 15-foot ceilings, very grand type apartments, large, just very European. And so we lived in a very typical Catalan apartment, and it was about 2,500 euros a month, which is about, at the time, because it's euros and US dollars, so it's probably closer to $3,000 a month. But that was like in the middle of the city, big apartment, the life and stuff. Then we had to, kids went to school. Really crazy thing. I was trying to get them into public school, but there was no space. Blew my mind. I didn't know that. How do you not have space? So in Spain, they have public schools, they have private schools, and they have like a charter school. It would be close to a charter school in the United States, or it's a public-private partnership. So you have to pay, but you don't have to pay as much as a private school. So private international schools in Barcelona runs about 10 to 20,000 euros a year, which to me, I did not want to do that. I just, those are for English speaking school, American School of Barcelona, the British School of Barcelona, stuff like that. There's a lot of international schools. So the concertadas, which is like in the middle, they're about 300 euros a month. Okay, so what is that? 7,000 euros a month. So it's about $10,000 a year. But I have 2 kids. So we had to do that we did that for 3 years. So what happened was, and utilities, I'm sorry, I know this really got on my nerves here, because utilities are very expensive. Like electricity, I've gotten my water bill one time for like $300, and I was like, who do I talk to? Because this is ridiculous. Like water, electricity, and gas, for some reason, is expensive here, okay? Which I really do like. So that's other things, how are utilities built? Because that was very, food is cheap. Supermarket food is very inexpensive. Good quality, very inexpensive. Beef, I know this is weird. Beef is very expensive here. They don't, like pork is cheap, chicken is cheap, but beef, for some reason, it's like, I guess they don't grow a lot of beef and whatever, but it's expensive, but food isn't expensive. If you're in the major cities, rent is very expensive. You pay per month, but you need especially as a foreigner, they're going to want between 3 and 5 months of security, that you have to pay up front. That's just security. So you're not paying for those 5 months. They'll hold that. And then when the lease is finished, you're supposed to get it back. A lot of times you have problems, but what else? What else can I think about? Yeah. Subways, really good subway system, $1.50, buses, really good public transportation. There's Cabify here. Cabs are pretty reasonable. School lunches are $8 a day. I think that's expensive. Whoa. But they have a 3-course meal. They have a 3-course meal. So yeah, that's I think I gave a pretty good idea of the cost of living.
No, that's amazing. And you also kind of led into one of the final questions. We could talk for hours, and I'm so aware of the fact that you guys are have been gracious enough to give this hour. So I'll have a couple of closing questions. One, I want to know logistically, what did you think that you needed to come with versus what you actually learned when you got there? Oh, I really need this thing or these things, or I need people to send me these things. Like, from a making yourself and your family comfortable perspective, what are the things that you wish you would have known prior to going to make sure you stocked up on, or just set your lives up a different way? And that's for everyone.
Okay, well, because we were going from America to Europe, the power is different. Like, appliances don't work the same. So we didn't take any of our electronics, TV, kitchen appliances, all of that. The only thing we took were our laptops, and I took my computer because there were things that you can do, and I didn't want to replace them. But all TVs, any kind of electronics, hair dryers, hair care products, nothing. So no electronics. We didn't take any of our furniture. We sold everything. We just came with clothes, and I came with medicines until I understood how they did medicines here. Everything, I would do that again, except I wouldn't take as much clothing because, I mean, where I'm in Europe, clothes is not that expensive. So I could just shop here. So I probably wouldn't take as much stuff like that. But when we came, we really came with just the clothes and some medicine. And I think that's a good way to go because, it depends on where you're going and how much things cost. Because for us to have shipped everything over, by the sea, and there's good stuff where you're going. Don't worry about it. But I would have loved for NyQuil. There are some medicines that you just cannot get here. Peanut butter, NyQuil, and what else? Like stuff like that. Benadryl, like there's no Benadryl. They have their own type of thing, but like certain things like that. And hair care products, even though I'm starting to figure out where to go. My hair is not like everyone else's. So there's not that many products that will fit. So I found myself cereals. Oh my God. Like, my son only eats Rice Krispies, and there wasn't any regular Rice Krispies, or there's no such thing as Eggo waffles. So that kind of put us in a lurch. But it's not like you can bring a suitcase full of Eggo waffles. You just have to let it go. But stuff like that, hair care products, medicines, peanut butter.
Mariette, how about yourself?
So I was kind of the opposite. I brought I had spoken to some teachers that were African American and then taught in Kuwait. So they told me, bring your seasonings, bring your hair care. So I bought like 2 suitcases of like my soaps and my hair care and my seasonings. But what I did not bring, and I was rudely surprised, was winter clothes, because I was thinking, I'm coming to the desert, there's no winter, and then winter happened. It was freezing, so I didn't have a coat. I had to order a coat. Like, it was ridiculous. But I came with most of my things, but I was very surprised about winter. And then when I talked to people who are recently from America, because we just had winter, so they're recently from America, and they were like, why didn't anyone tell me it gets cold here? And I was like, I don't know, no one told me either. But it is so cold in the winter. So definitely would have liked to known to bring winter clothes for the winter. But for the most part, I was warned ahead of time to bring my things. But when I got here, they have these, it's like a supermarket, but they're called hypermarkets. And the hypermarkets, they sell a lot of American products. Like, you can go there. I have goldfish crackers. Like right now, they have all of the cereals and all of everything that you would get from America. They have it at these hypermarkets. It's more expensive, which is why I said earlier, it could be cheaper, but I want what I want. So, they have their brands. or you could get the American brand. It's a little bit more expensive, but I found that I can find most things. Hair care products, I don't really know because like I said, I shipped 2 suitcases of hair care products, so I don't know. I don't know if they're easy to find here, but it works out. It works out. You definitely have to know what's going to be there before you get there.
Sure.
So,
yep, that makes sense. How about you, Manira?
So you probably won't be relating to the things that I would have loved to be able to have here. We have this Milo drink that is made in Malaysia that is only available, or the taste is only in Malaysia, and they don't have it anywhere else in the world, even though the brand Milo is there, but it does not taste the same. And anytime I know anyone coming from Malaysia, I will say, can I have Milo, please? So it's one of those things that I have not been able to grow out of. So the other things were, I didn't bring any furniture. I'm an avid reader. So when I moved, I had like 10 boxes of books. So these are the things that are probably a burden, but then I was not able to part from my books. And but for the most part, because I've moved around a lot, even within Malaysia, or I've moved with my mom, that I knew that I had to part ways with a lot of stuff. Like I had no sentimental touch or no sentimental attachment to a lot of stuff. So I've been practical about that. It's just that about the food, yeah, it's very hard. You know, you have to change. You have to change the way you eat. Like in Malaysia, green leaf vegetables are very available. You know, you pay for US dollars. It's less than it's 1 dirham. 1 dirham is less than, it's what, 367 dirham to $1. But I pay about 1 dirham for one, stock of green leaves. But here it's a little bit harder to find the ones that I have in Malaysia. So I have to adjust. So food, toiletries here are more expensive, I find. So whenever I go back to Malaysia, I will stock up, put them in my luggage, and I bring over whatever toiletries for 2-3 months. It's a weird thing to do, but I do it because I like the stuff in Malaysia better. I don't know. But other than that, no, I hope I'm pretty practical about it. And I didn't bring a lot of clothes. I bought all new furnitures, and it's just personal stuff, photo frames, things like this.
Awesome. Yeah. So it sounds to me like flexibility is key. And you discover over time what things that you want to commit to having people, like friends and family, bring, or you getting when you go home. And but this is part of the journey, right? Of being someplace that's not necessarily having all the things that you're used to. I know we're at 11, but if you don't mind, I would like to close out with 2 final questions, if that's okay, because we didn't even touch on language and sort of the adjustments that have to be made. Language, and then also just like Lariat, you kind of referred to this a bit, like the way people do things, right? But I can imagine language is one big thing that you guys have had to figure out. I don't know if anyone's been on Duolingo. I don't know if any of you went to the countries already speaking the language or having some exposure. Talk a little bit about that experience as well.
I do not speak Arabic at all. And it's so funny because my daughter's been here since she was in kindergarten, so she learns Arabic in school. And I remember one time we were in the supermarket and someone was trying to ask me something, and she started speaking Arabic to the person and like telling them, no, my mommy doesn't speak Arabic. And I'm like, wait, I don't want you talking to strangers in another language that I don't understand. So sometimes she has to translate for me. I'll call her, hey, how do you say this? Like if I'm, I don't know, like getting the delivery, or if I'm in the taxi or something, like she knows many more words than I do. So she's my little translator for right now. But I definitely need to learn the language because it's ridiculous. I don't know any Arabic.
Okay. Gotcha. How about you, Kiana?
I learned Spanish in school, standard U.S. education where you have Spanish classes. it helped very little bit when I got here because, I think I'm like, hey, I can translate, I can conjugate verbs, I'm awesome. And then somebody talks to me and I freeze, and they speak very fast, and the language is just different. And I've gotten a lot better just because of all the administrative stuff I've had to do and dealing with schools and homework. And it's added here in Catalonia because, like I said, their official language is Catalan, which is honestly a mix between Spanish, Portuguese, and Italian. It's like so it's not Spanish, but it sounds like it could be. So, and the kids learn in Catalan. So we didn't go to an international school where they learn in English. So we kind of just threw them into the lion pit, and it was hard. It was difficult, and I'm sure their therapists, when they get older, they'll have some material for them. But now they're fluent in Catalan, they're fluent in Spanish, and they speak English. So I think that's pretty cool. My daughter, she's 14 now, and she's switching and she's doing it, and she's got the accent.
Awesome.
She's just, you can't tell her nothing. My son, it's harder for him. He's 9 and he's just stubborn, and he knows more than he is, but he has a lot of social anxiety. So I think that kind of stops him, but he's still, I'm really impressed that they're learning, like my daughter's learning calculus and physics in Catalan, which blows my mind. These are hard subjects anyways, and they're learning it. And my son, he's learning, they actually taught him how to read English. So I think it's pretty cool. I took a local Catalan class. I'm okay at it. I've had to learn Spanish. I just got to do better. I can't be as social with other parents and stuff like that because I don't speak the language. And so that's in the next few years, I want to get fluent where I can have Spanish friends or Catalan friends and communicate, because they kind of try to communicate in English, and which is really good because everybody wants to learn English because English is the language of business. It's the language of business. So, but yeah, I'm about 45% good in Spanish.
Okay, so you've given yourself plenty of time to continue the journey and get to where you want to go, and that's a really great. I want Munira to answer the same question, but just I know for another time it's good for us to talk about community. Because I don't know how social you guys are. I know I'm social. That's one of the reasons why I founded this group, because I'm like, I want to be able to reach out and touch people and network and communicate as much as possible around what it is to be a mom, a single mom, etc. So I know I can imagine that's really important also from an opportunity for business. So I would like for you guys to post your links to your businesses. I know we didn't spend a lot of time because, time, I should have just made this for an hour and a half. But then again, it's a weekend, so I'm not trying to hone in on your time, but I just know there's so much more. But Munira, how about you with the language? I don't know how many languages you speak. If you came knowing, I don't know, I've only visited Dubai, so I don't know how many. I know there's lots of cultures and nationalities and languages spoke, kind of like New York City. What has your experience been like in regards to the languages?
So I only speak 2 languages fluently, which is Malay and English. And the special thing about Dubai is most people speak English. It's Dubai, so I think the majority of people that you meet speak English. But everybody speaks it a different way. So you're speaking English, and then another person might be speaking English, and then you look at them and I think he's speaking English, but it sounds like it's Korean. So the thing that was a surprise for me when I came here, I thought, okay, I think my English is pretty good, so I don't think there will be any problem to communicate. But then when I went into a meeting room, there was Russians, South Koreans, Iraqis, there's Turkish, and I sit there and I looked at my boss at the time and I thought, I don't understand anyone. And they're all speaking English. So over the years, I learned to understand the dialects of the different nationalities. There's Pakistani, Indian English, Chinese English, the Korean, the Vietnamese, you name it. So it's like when somebody who is a native English speaker speaks, I'm like, oh, I feel so left behind now, because I've been hearing all of these people who are speaking English as a second language, and we're trying to speak basic language so that we understand each other. But then I hear, North Americans or the British, they speak English, and I'm like, okay, it's a breath of fresh air, but now I feel like I don't know English anymore. So that's the interesting part of my journey of being in Dubai, speaking English. And my youngest son, when we went back to Malaysia and I asked him, do you speak Malay? He said, Mommy, no, I only speak Dubai. He's 4 years old. He doesn't even know he's speaking English.
Sure.
So, basically Dubai speak English. So that's what they understood. So I had to correct him, of course.
Okay. Wow. That's, I mean, I love the richness to the journey that like you guys have all brought to this conversation in your respective countries and coming from your respective cities and countries. That's been amazing. So I know that we highlighted your travel business, which you will post a link to in this thread. And Kiana, I just wanted to also shout out that Kiana actually did the cover and put together a whole ebook for me. I used her service before. So she does self-publishing. She has I think it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, virtual self-publishing as well as a traditional self-publishing company, correct? And she makes amazing products. So I just wanted to highlight that. And then Lariette, did you have a business? I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm just making sure that we actually get you a shout out before we end.
Not yet, but I've definitely been inspired.
Certainly. Okay, fantastic. Well, ladies, I just cannot thank you enough for this conversation. And hopefully you guys are willing to maybe do a future panel discussion as well. For those who are watching or who will watch later, I'm actually going to put out the ask for guys who are living abroad. If there are fathers who are living abroad with their families, would love to have a panel discussion with you about that as well. So just know that that's an ask that's I'm making to you now if you're watching this. And another thing that I would like to have a conversation with people about is purchasing property abroad, right? In terms of whether it's a real estate investment that you're making, or like seeking retirement in the future. So if you're watching this and that's you, please inbox me. But thank you, ladies, so much. Is there any sort of last minute thing that you would like to say before we close out?
I would like to add one thing about living abroad as a single parent, which is probably the most important. Childcare. If I'm going to be working, if I don't sort out the childcare, I cannot do it. So I have to put it there. And maybe shout out to my nanny, who's been with me for many years. Without her, I can't do anything.
Listen.
I can't do anything.
Nannies rule the world. I have one in pandemic I did not have before. I would not be able to do any of the things that I'm doing right now. So real talk. I'm glad you said that. Anybody else?
I want to say.
I would say. Oh.
You go on.
Oh, okay. So I would say one thing to definitely look into as a single parent that you may not think about coming from America is the visa process. Oh my goodness. Definitely find out what the visa process is for a single parent before you come, because it's difficult once you get there.
In this region, I have to agree with Lariette. Similar situation.
Okay. Do your due diligence, make sure legally you've got your ducks in a row. This is what I'm hearing you say. Make sure that that's something that you pay considerable attention to, right? Excellent. Thank you for that.
Definitely.
Okay. Did you have something?
I wanted to say definitely. Okay. Definitely the visa process is the bureaucracy can be insane. Yes, a nanny is very, very important. And finding one and working with one, yes. And the other thing, sicknesses. I found that you should definitely, as a parent living abroad, you should have insurance, get medical insurance. That is very important. And know how to call emergency services because it's a different number in every country. Know medicines that you need, and just have a quick contact to a doctor or someone that you can get medical care from and medical advice, because kids will get sick and it's scary being in a different language, different country, and just prepare yourself to get sick a lot. We got sick a lot, I think, because it's a different environment. So yeah, being very much on medical care and doctors and medicines, and just understanding the landscape of what you need to do if somebody gets sick.
That's a really great future topic for discussion. As I know, we are obviously in pandemic and, coronavirus, but not to mention just, having maybe children, in addition to preparing from a general sickness perspective, having children who are maybe special needs, who from an educational standpoint, as well as a health standpoint, you might need to be considering significantly in your travels in terms of whether or not they'll be able to get what they need. So thank you for that addition. That's really important. I agree. And it is now 11:15. So are there any last things that you would offer to parents who are considering traveling abroad? Last words, last go round, and then we will close.
A single mom or a single parent needs to be completely healthy and have strength, because you need to carry everything by yourself. You need to carry a screaming child by yourself. You need to board trains by yourself. So you have to be strong and healthy.
Excellent, excellent closeout. And we're going to focus on all of us being strong and healthy wherever we are in this new year and beyond. So thank you again, ladies. I cannot tell you how wonderful this is to start this year off with this kind of inspiration. Amazing job to all of you for all the things that you've done. And Munira, I'm especially thankful for you bringing up your mom and how she sort of helped you think about how that there's no limits to what you can do and how you're carrying on that experience for your children as well. So kudos to you. Thank you. We'll see you guys another time.
Thank you, everyone. It's great to meet you. Bye.
You as well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great day, guys.